Appreciate it. Okay, I'm sure people will filter in and out, but we're going to get started here. So thank you for taking the time out here today to join the session. I'm going to kind of walk through just my thoughts on how individuals and early career professionals can navigate their career, especially as AI is becoming more prevalent in various industries and various functions. So we'll start off by quickly doing a quick intro on me, and I'd love for folks to chime in if they want to give me a quick sense of how far along they are in their careers. Then I'll jump into a quick roadmap on how to navigate your career through the world of AI. We'll then move into leveraging your AI knowledge that you'll build by creating a roadmap to then build your brand. And then we'll talk about tactical strategies for using that brand and that knowledge to go out there and secure a job that you want. Cool. So quick background on me. I have over 11 years of experience in strategy and operations across a lot of consulting firms and tech firms. Did my undergrad at UT, so hook them out there for any Longhorns out here. Right out of UT, I joined EY as a consultant and then moved over to Uber to join their strategy and ops team as an early employee. After a few years at Uber, I decided to go back to school and build my strategic skill set and my leadership skills at business school. So I went to Kellogg. And then after Kellogg, I joined Bain as a consultant, where I spent a couple of years in go-to-market strategy. More recently, I've gone back into the tech world, and I've been at a couple of different SaaS startups. Currently, I'm at a startup that's in the mortgage solution space. But in my free time, I really enjoy working with other professionals to help coach them. I wouldn't be where I am today without my mentors and without my coaches, and so I really like to spend a little bit of my free time giving back to the community to help me. Just so I get a sense here, how far along are folks here in their careers? Are we, just so that I can, cater this conversation to the right audience? So I see mid-career here, 3 to 5 years. Okay, new grad. Okay, so what I'm hearing is early career individuals. Perfect. Thank you for chiming in. I'll definitely cater a lot of the verbal commentary here to kind of cater to the phase of the career that you're at. So let's start off by just talking about the general market sentiment. I've been talking to a lot of people over the last few months. For context, I was in the job market for about 4 or 5 months this year. So I just started a new job a couple of weeks ago. So I've got a pretty good sense of what the job market looks like right now. And generally, the economy is really strong. But I think a lot of companies are facing a lot of uncertainty just with the high interest rate environment and potential tariffs on the horizon. And so companies are struggling with this idea of, like, should we invest in further growing our company, or should we hold on to some resources and cut costs? And now with AI coming into the picture and making it much more easier to automate things or to do technical things in a much cheaper or faster way, a lot of companies are questioning whether they should reinvest their resources into their workforce or just hang on to some of those resources in case a rainy day is around the corner. And so broadly, I think a lot of people would agree that certain white-collar tasks or functions will change drastically in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And so something that I've noticed that I think really helps individuals stand out in this very uncertain environment is leveraging the knowledge that is out there to become more proficient in AI, and specifically using AI to make yourself much more productive. What I've realized is that a lot of working professionals are just too busy to dial into what's going on with AI. I've noticed it recently in my own career, where a lot of people just don't have the time to experiment with tools or learn about the new tools. This trend of AI is just evolving on almost a daily basis, where a new tool comes out or a new feature pops up. And so it's really tough for people to keep themselves dialed in to learn about what's happening. Secondly, I think a lot of companies expect their new grads or their new hires to be more familiar with tools and analytics. They want people to be more AI native. They want people to be more analytical. And lastly, I think AI is just something that will help you accelerate your careers. I see this as an analog to when tools like Excel or PowerPoint came about in the 80s and 90s, and the professionals who became proficient in tools like PowerPoint or Excel were just running circles around people who didn't know how to use it. Back in the day, I think Bain would have its consultants hand draw charts and slides, and obviously with PowerPoint, that made things so much faster and more efficient. And it was much easier for you to accelerate your career if you were using tools that made you more productive compared to those who were not. And AI is the same way. There's a lot of AI tools out there that can make you more productive. And if you're able to invest your time to learn how to be more productive with AI, and you can show that to a prospective employer or to a fellow colleague, that will help you immensely in accelerating your career. So how do you actually go about doing that, right? So there's two ways that I think about it. Step one is to go out there and do your research, right? Follow the newsletters for the latest developments and trends in AI. There's a lot of AI fluency courses out there. I know Anthropic and OpenAI have these out there. They're free. They're really good. I've done them myself. They give you certifications. And then follow industry leaders on LinkedIn and Twitter to get their perspective on what they're seeing with AI in their own industries or in their own function. And then step two of this is to go out there and actually experiment yourself. So find tools that align with your functional expertise, test these tools to see how you can actually integrate them into your own daily workflows, your weekly workflows, and go out there and actually create the agents or workflows yourself. Build a hands-on experience in ways where even if you don't build a tool that you actually could deploy in a real-world environment in your career, building that tool yourself will give you a lot more knowledge than someone who has never done that before. And that is something that you can leverage in your conversations and interviews or in your conversations when you're networking. I myself was able to really stand out in a lot of different interview cycles with different companies by showing them the AI workflows that I had built myself. And I think that speaks volumes when you're able to show and not just tell. All right, pivoting a little bit more. So, we've talked so far about building your AI knowledge, right? But now I want to shift gears towards leveraging that knowledge to build your brand. And so the first thing that I would do is once you've built your knowledge, you need to go out there and find like-minded professionals who you can have conversations with about this knowledge, about AI, right? Talk to people about how are they using AI? Which tools have they used that they recommend you use? What is some of the impact that they've seen from their own work or their own experiments that they think might be meaningful for you? Which tools do you want to recommend to them? It's always important to give back to your network and not just take. And so as you have these conversations, make sure that you always have this element of like sharing with your network what you've learned as well. If I could just ask, could everyone just go on mute a little bit? There's a lot of background noise in the kitchen and typing. If you don't mind, just quickly go on mute. Perfect. And then I also really recommend using LinkedIn to build your brand. LinkedIn is, at the end of the day, just another social media platform, right? It's the same thing as TikTok or Instagram, in my opinion, but just for a very professional reason. And so I think engaging on LinkedIn to share what you've learned or to share your perspective on what you're seeing in the market really helps you stand out. It helps you show your colleagues, your network, that you actually know what you're talking about and that you can walk the walk and not just talk the talk. And so tactical ways to actually engage on LinkedIn, I recommend posting an article with your thoughts layered on top of it, or you can find someone else's LinkedIn post and just repost it on your own account. But again, always make sure that you layer your own unique thoughts on top and you're not just copying what someone else's idea is. You can launch a poll to poll your network on, what they think the future of AI might be in a specific function or in a specific experiment. I also think that the easiest way to engage on LinkedIn is to comment on someone else's post. I personally make it a point to try to leave a comment on a daily basis on someone else's post because I think the LinkedIn algorithm also rewards people who engage on comments on a daily basis. And then lastly, if you feel confident and brave enough, then you can also post a video if you feel confident about what you're talking about. Cool. And then moving into tactical strategies for actually securing a job. So the first thing that I always recommend to people is to make sure you have a very compelling story on your career. What I see, a common trap that I see a lot of people fall into is that they just go onto LinkedIn jobs, and they just shotgun into like a lot of different they submit applications to a lot of different jobs, and they're not actually thinking about, is this a job that I would be a standout candidate in? Is this a job that I feel very passionate about? It's really important to understand what your career has been like so far and how this next job that you're pursuing really fits into your story and fits into your career goals. So I'll give you an example. The current, I think I mentioned at the start of this conversation, I just started at a company that specializes in the mortgage solution space. So I was really able to stand out in that process because when I had conversations with my interviewers, I could empathize with the home buyers, their customers, because I went through a very similar process when I was purchasing a car earlier this year. a lot of the same pain points that I experienced in purchasing a car exist in the home buying experience. And because I was able to show that this is something that I feel very passionate about, because I myself have experienced these pain points, that really helped me stand out from candidates who simply applied to the job because it had a cool title or it was a cool company. So it's important to think about, how do you create your experiences into a story that feel compelling and can really convince people that you're really passionate about this job and this career. Do not apply to jobs just because an opening exists. I think if you're approaching it from that strategy, you're doing yourself a disservice, because you're going to spend a lot of time spinning your wheels and you won't get as much traction as you're hoping to, especially as you advance in your career and make it into those senior level positions where they really want to see some thought and strategy behind why you're approaching this next step in your career. I think it's also really important to leverage your network. Reach out to alums from your school, form connections with people at your internships, other colleagues, reach out to industry professionals that you're inspired by, talk to professionals at companies that are known for hiring people with your profile. I'm a big fan of sending out cold emails or cold LinkedIn messages. Obviously, the hit rate on those are low, but it is a numbers game. If you reach out to 20 people in a cold message, you might get 2 responses. And so it's important that you have a balance between quality and quantity, because it is a numbers game and you need to have high numbers, high number of outreaches. But at the same time, if the two responses you're getting from your outreaches are from companies you don't care about, then that's a low quality connection that's not actually going to help you achieve the goals that you're setting yourself out to achieve. So more tactically, this is an example of verbatim. I changed the name of the individual I reached out to, but this is a verbatim example of a cold outreach I made to someone that I randomly found in my network. I think we had like 3 or 4 mutual connections. He's like 10 years more experienced than I am, so much more senior than I am. But I kind of sent them this really concise message where I tried to build on the shared experiences first by showing him that we have a lot of common experiences. We were both Kellogg alums. We both started our careers at UI. I worked at Uber when he was at Lyft. I quickly moved into why I was specifically reaching out to him. I was really impressed by his career trajectory, and something honestly that I hope my career will one day look like. I was very concise in my ask with him. I wanted just 10 minutes of his time to see if I could pick his brain on a couple of questions that I had. And then I think what also really helps is giving back to the individual. So again, as I've spent some time in researching AI, I created a list of AI tools that I thought were meaningfully making me more productive in my function. And so I just share this list of tools with everyone that I reach out to, just as a way to thank them for their time and hopefully give them some time back in their own day if they're able to leverage these tools to make themselves more productive as well. So this is just one example. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but I think the key takeaways are to be concise and be very targeted, and to always thank the person in return for their time. Cool. And so just in conclusion, and then we can open it up to Q&A, because I want to make sure I have some time here to answer your questions. But I think in order to navigate your career over the next few years and to move on to a new job that you're really excited about, it's important that you become AI native. Again, those that become AI native are going to run circles around those that are not using AI to make themselves more productive. As you build this knowledge and become more AI native, it's important to show your network that you know your stuff, right? Build your brand. Go on to LinkedIn, meet with people, post on LinkedIn, just get out there and build your brand. And then use that to build an engine that's creating inbound jobs that are hitting your LinkedIn inbox, right? Think about the stories that work for your profile. Think about the stories that work for the career goals that you have, and then go out there and grow your network based on your goals. And then lastly, shameless plug, I am a career coach, and so I highly recommend getting a career coach in your corner, whether it's me or someone else that you jive with. Again, I wouldn't be here today in my position without having the right mentors and coaches guiding me. And so I highly recommend working with a coach, especially early in your career, to make sure that you're charting the right path and have the right goals in mind. And with that, here are just some QR codes with my Leland profile and my LinkedIn profile if you would like to connect. And yeah, I would love to open it up in a Q&A. I know I've spent 15 minutes just talking at you, but would love to chat about anything that's on anyone's mind and just discuss what might be top of mind and how I might be of help to you. Anyone? Let's see. There are maybe some messages in the chat. When you said you built a workflow, is that something you talked about in your interviewer? Thank you for the question, Mary. So yes, I've been using this tool called N8N, and it allows you to create AI workflows in a no-code format. So I didn't have to do any coding. It's just a lot of modular boxes and integrations that you're able to stitch together to actually be able to make some sort of a workflow out of it. So some examples of things that I've built. I'm really like good about making sure that I update my to-do list, but that does take a lot of time out of my day to make sure that my to-do list is up to date. And so I built a workflow through N8N where anytime my boss sends me an email, that workflow will automatically detect that email, parse out the relevant information regarding the tasks that I need to do, create a Trello card for me because I love using Trello. It's something that allows me to unlock more productivity. It creates a Trello automatically for me, and then it also goes a step beyond that and uses an LLM like Gemini or ChatGPT to think through what are some strategic next steps that I should think about in actually going out and completing this task my boss wanted me to do. So that saves me about 5 hours a week because I don't ever have to update my to-do list. My inbox sort of just does that for me. The AI workflow does it for me. And talking about this in an interview actually helps spur more conversation about how this can be applied to the company that I was talking to. And then again, it showed just my expertise and knew that I knew what I was talking about because as I was asked various questions, I didn't falter and I knew what I was saying and it would work. So again, I think getting hands-on experience and actually experimenting with things in AI really helps you build your knowledge, and it's something that you can actually talk through in an interview if someone asks you about it. Sure. And then next question is from Hannah. So Hannah's asking, could I share some examples of how I've worked with clients as a career coach around AI? No worries, Hannah, about your mic and camera. No worries at all. So yeah, great question. So again, I've worked with a lot of clients over the last few years, particularly I think a lot of early grads or folks who are still in school wondering whether they should pivot their major or pivot their internship strategy or pivot out to a second job just because things are changing. AI is changing the nature of their roles or their goals. And so an example of something that I worked with a client recently. So this client of mine is currently a new grad. He just graduated and is 2 years into his career in finance, specifically in data analytics in a financial services firm. And what he's noticed is that with AI, you're just able to you're able to save a lot of time by using an LLM to do the data analytics for you. And so as a result of that, the need for his role is not as strong as it was when he was hired. I think the nature of his job is changing because now instead of spending a lot of his time in R or Tableau, he's just leveraging a lot of AI tools to do a lot of the work for him. And so that leaves a lot of time left on his plate, but his boss doesn't know how to fill up the remainder time on his plate, right? And so it's one of those things where he's wondering, is this perhaps a situation where I'm going to be automated out of a job, or should I start looking for something else, or should I pivot in a different way? And my advice to him was that I think right now, a lot of people just don't know what is going to happen with AI, especially your boss, right? I think everyone has the same fear that AI is going to automate a certain function and they might be a little bit more, obsolete as a result of it. And so if I were someone's boss and I'm feeling that way, I wouldn't give more of my work downstream to my direct reports because all of a sudden that shows that I'm doing even less work, right? And so my advice to him was that go out there and find ways to be productive with this newfound free time that you have. Your boss might not be giving you work, but take the initiative to understand how your team is functioning or how other teams around you are functioning and whether you have the ability to add value to certain tasks that weren't getting done before or maybe weren't even getting done correctly before. If you have the free time, then don't just waste it. Go out there and use that and show your boss that you're actually taking the initiative to, again, maybe even leveraging AI in other aspects of other people's jobs. But don't just waste that opportunity, leverage that opportunity. Just going through the chat here. Mary saying, oh, that's interesting. So you didn't have to be an engineer. Did you put that to-do Trello workflow optimizer as a project on your resume, or did you just bring that up in an interview? Yeah, so I'm not an engineer by trade or by any sort of education. Again, my undergrad was in finance and marketing. And I didn't put that on my resume. I don't think it hurts to put it on your resume, but I think for frankly the jobs that I was applying to, I don't think that people were really looking for those details on my resume. So I always brought it up in an interview. I think especially I kind of specialize in the go-to-market strategy space, and so a lot of my conversations of using AI kind of revolve around the sales force and leveraging it to make your sales team more productive or making your marketing more productive. And so a lot of the tools that I've built or the knowledge that I've gained has kind of been leveraged towards interviews and not necessarily in my resume. But you absolutely could put it in your resume too. I think it just depends on like the stage you are in your career. I think if you're a couple years out of college, I would definitely put it on your resume, because again, I think it's just another way to show people that you're AI native. And if you can put certifications on there or tools that you've become more of an expert in, then I would definitely put it on your resume. Samuel, do you think generalist product manager is dead and need to pick a niche vertical early in career? I don't think so. Again, I think a lot of people are figuring this out, right? We're all in this together and no one really knows what the next 5 years will look like. I actually just emailed a professor of mine from Kellogg who I noticed that he was actually teaching I took his R modeling class at Kellogg, and I noticed that everything I learned in that class is now obsolete because he was kind of basing it off of a textbook, and now he's pivoted his course to basically leveraging AI to make you more of a data scientist and more modeling. Anyway, so he actually, I reached out to him and asked him if he had any insight into where things are going, and even he didn't want to say anything because no one really knows. I think for product management, I think again it's really important to start building up your AI toolkit. From a lot of my friends who are product managers, I've heard success stories where they have built prototypes for their companies through no code platforms like Lovable and Replit, I think is another one, where I think in a lot of cases the software development cycle might be 6 months to 12 months long, where a good chunk of that might be dedicated to prototyping. Well, if your team of 10 engineers is dedicating 3 months to prototyping, whereas you, the product manager, could do it overnight or in a week, I think you bring a lot of value by showing your engineers, hey, this is a mock-up prototype of what I envision for this product. Go run with it. I just saved you 2 months of work because now we don't need to do this over 3 months, right? I think a lot of different functions can use AI to make them more productive, and I think the PM role is especially one of those functions that can do so, especially because coding is something that anyone can do now, not to the expert level, but at least to the novice level. Okay, more questions. John, what is the best free no-code platform to build tools, agents, and prototypes? I don't know of a free one. I think everyone offers a free trial, though. I'm a huge fan of N8N. Again, that's just, I'll put it in the chat. It's spelled as you think it is, N8N. I pay $20 a month, and you can create a lot of fun AI workflows out of it because they have a lot of great integrations with other third-party apps, whether it's Google Workspace Suite or Airtable or Notion or you name it. I think that any no-code platform that is highly integrated into other third-party apps, especially popular third-party apps like Google, G Sheets and Gmail or whatever, I think those are good no-code platforms. I've tried another one called Vector Shift, but frankly, I wasn't a huge fan of it. It kept breaking. I think Zapier is probably working towards becoming a little bit better, but again, a lot of my Zapier workflows tended to break. And I think any no-code platform that can kind of sustain itself over the course of a week or a month is ideal, because I don't want to have to keep going back to the tool and to the workflow to fix it if it keeps breaking. And so far, my my N8N workflows have been pretty good. Okay, let's see, any other questions here? If you had a question earlier on and I missed it, feel free to drop it in again. I don't want to miss anyone's question here. So a question here from Peyton. What's a good entry point to learn how to use AI in a work setting? My previous company didn't permit us to use it on our own and didn't have it built in their internal tech stand to learn natively. That's a good question. It is definitely one of those things that I think is tough right now, because especially in a company setting, it's really, really important that your company's data is private and protected. And so you don't want to take your company data and put it on a platform like N8N unless your company has vetted N8N and made it a secure vendor that has a secure and approved vendor. So it's definitely tough. I hear you on that. I've faced that issue myself. And look, I think it's going to get better over time, right? I think Gemini is is actually my favorite AI tool suite to use. And a lot of companies, right, have like enterprise agreements with Google, or they have enterprise agreements with Microsoft. Microsoft obviously has its own AI suite with OpenAI and its own, Microsoft Office Copilot. I think hopefully your company has a Microsoft tech stack or has a Google tech stack, but if it doesn't, depending on the culture in your company or depending on the size of your company, I would go to your boss or go to the IT team and request them to give you access to Gemini or give you access to whatever tool you're looking for, to see if they would be willing to let you experiment with using AI to make you more productive. I think most companies are realizing that they need to have some sort of an AI tool in their tech stack. And if your company doesn't already have it, then take the initiative, go have that conversation and see if they would be willing to let you be the guinea pig and test it out. Question from Mary here earlier. AI native seems to be kind of all-encompassing. Do you recommend focusing on a niche instead? I recommend focusing on the niche that applies to your career path, right? So if you're in finance, think about if you're in FP&A, let's say, right? Go find the FP&A AI tools that make it easier to do month end, right? Close your books at the end of the month. Go find the tools that make it easier to do RevOps, right? Figure out how much revenue your company made in the last month and what that means for you going forward, what your ARR is, what your lifetime value is, your LTV is, what your CAC is. There's a lot of tools built specifically for different functions, whether it's finance, accounting, sales, marketing, you name it, supply chain, logistics. Figure out which tools make sense for your particular specialty or function and go be an expert on those tools. Again, you'll have to experiment with the different tools to see which works best, right? So don't go to your boss and recommend the first tool you tried. Go try 2 or 3 different tools and tell your boss, hey, I've tried tools X, Y, and Z, and I think that tool Z makes the most sense for our use case for XYZ reason, right? I definitely recommend doing your research and focusing on a niche rather than don't recommend ChatGPT to your boss, right? Like that is table stakes. Great. Looking at this, thoughts on Manus AI. Honestly, I have not heard of Manus AI. So thank you for sharing that in the chat. I will be Googling that or ChatGPTing that right after this call. But frankly, I don't have any thoughts on Manus AI because unfortunately I have not heard of that one. Question from Peyton. I had issues with Gemini not able to interpret or parse our documents in our company Drive or create tables that made sense with what I was asking. Maybe I'm missing out on a use case. I'm surprised that it wasn't able to interpret or parse the documents in your company Drive. I used it just yesterday for a similar use case, and it's done a pretty good job. I think that Gemini is the reason I'm a big fan of Gemini is because Google is known to be an engineering company for other engineers, right? So they've almost overworked their products. It's almost overpowered for a lot of business use cases. And so I think there's a lot of functionality in Gemini tools that can actually be leveraged in ways that the engineers didn't anticipate users to use that tool for. I'm happy to chat offline, Peyton, if you've had trouble with using Gemini for parsing documents or interpreting them, because I think that should be pretty easy to do with Gemini. Yep, Mary's also used Gemini. It seems to also be a fan. That's awesome. Love that. Yeah, I'm also not a fan of Copilot. Question from Hannah. I mentioned newsletters around AI as one example to keep yourself up to date on the landscape. Are there any other recommend, or could you share one you personally follow? Yeah, so the one I personally follow is the Neuron. I just typed it in the chat. It's a daily newsletter, pops up in my inbox, in my work inbox. And honestly, it's a pretty quick read. I think that as soon as you kind of understand the structure that the Neuron has in their daily articles, you can kind of skim through the things that you don't want to read anymore. But I highly recommend it. That's where I got my start, and it's helped me quite a bit. I also think there's a lot of YouTube tutorials. Again, if you find a tool that you're interested in, go YouTube it. I guarantee you there's probably 10 different YouTube influencers that have created tutorials that you can leverage for those tools. Well, great. I think we're at time today. I really appreciate the engaging Q&A here. I hope that you guys really enjoyed this conversation. Again, happy to chat offline. I think I shared my Leland profile, but contact me on the Leland profile and we can have a conversation on whatever issues you might be encountering. Happy to help you guys through that. But good luck with everything. And yeah, I'm excited to see what you guys do. Take care.